Hi, everybody. Welcome to Discover College Soccer. Today, I'm lucky enough to be joined by Coach Evan from Sarah Lawrence University up in New York. Welcome, Coach.
Nice to have you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. I know you just wrapped up the season, so I'm sure you're starting to hit that recruiting trail pretty hard. But one question I know a lot of players that I work with ask is, on a percentage basis, how much of your time would you say during the season you're spending on recruiting?
Yeah, great question. 20%. It kind of has to be in there a bit. It is difficult to manage. I am one head coach. I have a part-time assistant who's been phenomenal, but is very much so part-time. Um, so I have a 34-man roster. I got a lot of guys. I got a lot of playing time conversations, a lot of why do we lose this game conversations, video analysis things. So sometimes the kind of the future gets lost a little bit in the now kind of thing. That being said, I really do try to say, okay, it's been 2 weeks. Let me shoot a text. It's been
Yeah.
a week. Let me give a phone call. The world of college coaching is I do a lot of driving. So I try to get a lot of those recruiting calls done while I'm driving. I feel like I can do answering emails and video analysis while I'm sitting in the office, but I can also do recruiting while I'm driving. So just trying to make the most of that, of that time. But um, I'd say about 20% is probably a good answer. It's more staying in touch with the people that I've been in touch with. It's a little bit less creating new relationships. And then as soon as the season ends, kind of now, then it's okay, reinforcing applications, reinforcing all that stuff, and then creating those new relationships for that, for right now, we're already looking at 26.
Oh, okay. So that was gonna be my next question. How much of your, as a Division III school here, November, how much of your class of 25 is done? How much are you focused on 26? What's that kind of ratio looking like?
Yeah. So 0% of it's done, but there's definitely steps that I'm looking to complete. The biggest reason for me that I'm not further along is just the nature of the school. It is a very high academic school. It is a very difficult school to get into. As with most of the schools like that, it's also a pretty expensive school. So it's hard for me to demand a kid to commit when I don't know if he's going to get in 100%. And I don't know if he's going to get the package that he needs 100%. So I always kind of say to kids, you're in my book. You have a roster spot in my book. We can do the official commitment thing in a couple weeks after you've gotten in, but what's the point of you committing and then you don't get in? Or what's the point of you committing and you get a $5,000 financial aid package when you needed 35? So for me, I kind of wait for A to fall. Okay, the first domino fell, you got in, perfect. Second domino fell, you got that financial aid package that you wanted. Now let's talk about that serious commitment so we can kind of get this done.
Okay. Well, and now that, you're hitting that recruiting trail over the next three to
Yeah.
six months, where are the places you like to go to watch
Oh man,
players? Where
yeah, busy
what's
couple weeks. I
yeah.
have a camp. I'm going an exact camp, which is a camp company that I've worked with for years and years that I really like. I think they do a good job. So I have an exact camp on Friday of this week up in South Jersey. I have an exact camp of Monday this week in New York. I leave for ECNL Phoenix on Thursday morning. So I'm in Phoenix for a couple days. I come back for a week. I then leave for San Diego for Surf Cup. I come back for a week. I leave for Florida for the EA showcase. And then I come back for a couple weeks and I relax, just normal recruiting in and around the area. And then I think my next big one is ECNL Vegas. Um, and then it calms down for a bit again. And then I kind of hit my early spring ones, which are typically like Jefferson Cup, which I think is a really good one. I hit the MLS Next Flex, which is usually in Maryland, which is a big one for the MLS Next kids. And then I typically will do another ECNL event, and I typically do the ECNL kind of national playoffs. We at Sarah Lawrence are very eclectic and very nationwide with our roster. I think my starting 11 this past year, I had two New York guys. So it is everywhere and anywhere because of the prestige of the school, because of the location in relation to New York, it becomes a very nationwide recruiting.
Yeah, yeah, it seems like it. Well, whether it's at these camps or at these events, what makes up the hierarchy of things you're looking for in a player, both on the field and off?
Oh, I love it. Character's one. I want to see a kid that I know is going to fit right into my team, right into my program. I joked with my guys after we finished the past season, and I said, hey, you kind of get to be done with me for a couple weeks. You've probably seen me more than mom and dad. You've seen me more than most of your friends. I hope you haven't seen me more than your girlfriend, but you very well may have at 7 a.m. practices and games on the weekends and stuff like that. So that character part of it's huge. I don't want a guy that's going to break up my culture. I don't want a guy that's not going to want to be part of it, that's not going to want to be on bus trips and be in early morning practices and being in preseason and all that kind of stuff. So character for me is one. I think athleticism is something that we're kind of lacking. So that's kind of really where I'm shifting a bit. Most D3 coaches will tell you that that's the biggest difference between Division 3 and Division 1 is that size, that strength, that athleticism. So for me, I think I have a lot of really good soccer players, but I don't have enough just game-changing athletes, whether that's a 6'4" kid, whether that's the fastest kid you've ever seen, whether that's some version of that. I think that's what I'm really kind of looking for in this recruiting class is guys like that. And then funny enough, third is soccer ability. And it's crazy when you think about that. I am a men's soccer head coach, and my third on my list is probably the soccer. The one thing I will say is the events that I'm going to are high quality enough that I kind of know the baseline of soccer. So it's a little different if I'm going to a random event in here or a random event there. I don't know what the soccer level is going to be. I know if I'm going out to ECNL Phoenix, I know the baseline level is good enough to be at Sarah Lawrence. It's good enough to play for my program. But then who are the top guys within that baseline group?
Okay, that makes sense. And you mentioned before you have roster 34. Is that kind of your target each year that you're looking
No,
to
that's
have?
that's so for context, I took over 5 years ago. Before I took over, we had won, I think, 0 or 1 game the year before. And when I took over, we had 12 guys in the roster. So I left a Division 1 program. I was a Division 1 top assistant for 5 years. Took over this program, and it was like, whoa, 12 guys. What do I do? So I grabbed like four walk-ons who great kids, and I appreciate them dearly. I'm not sure if they could walk and chew gum at the same time, but I appreciate them and they mean a lot to me as a person and for being part of the program. So the goal was big roster, big roster, big roster, big roster. This was kind of I had completed a recruiting cycle now. So it was kind of like the goal was to get to 30, get to 32, get to 34, and then kind of turn 34 into a 28 to 30. So 34 was just too much. Just, I got to be honest, it was a little bit too much to handle, a little too many guys, too many personalities. A real coach is playing 18 to 20 players. So you have 14 guys who are upset with playing time and all that kind of stuff. So kind of balancing that. So my dream number would be about 28 to 30.
Okay, makes sense. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the school.
Yep.
Obviously a high academic
Yep.
institution, but what are some of the things that you have found that are great about the school? What kind of drew you there from your
Yeah,
other position? Tell
for
us a little
sure.
about that.
I think number one is the academics. And it's the academics mixed with the proximity to New York. We are 5 minutes away from being a city campus. So it's a perfect balance of being a beautiful. The campus is really, it's one of the biggest things. It is really spectacular. So it is a gorgeous, quintessential liberal arts campus, exposed brick, old buildings. It's got that beautiful feel to it. It's got the really small discussion-based style classrooms, 8 to 15 students, roundtable discussion. So you really get that style and that high level of engagement that I think is awesome. And then you mix that with being about 15 minutes from New York. So being able to be that close, but also not be kind of in it. Again, I always talk about NYU and Columbia, two of the best schools in the world. You step out of your NYU campus or you step out of your Columbia dorm, you are in Manhattan, and that might be amazing and that might be the coolest thing ever to think about that my campus is New York City, or that can be very intimidating very quickly. So I think the ability to have this beautiful campus with access with 20-minute away, 15-minute away, two train stations, Ubers, whatever, that access to New York City without being in New York City mixed with the really high academics was a really kind of a win-win situation for me.
Sounds like it. No, that's great. Well, you mentioned you know, maybe early morning practices and things like that, but let's go back a week. Let's say we're in the heart of that conference season. Do me a
Yep.
favor, walk me through what does a typical week look like for your
Yeah.
players?
So again, the world of being a really high academic school is school comes first, and it should, especially at this level in a school like this. So we don't do 1 p.m. practices or 2 p.m. or 3 p.m. We're not trying to compete with class. It's a battle that we're going to lose. So We are up 7 to 9 a.m. at the practice. The guys are expected to be in the sports center by 6:40 a.m. So again, as upsetting as a season might be or a loss might be, I'll never not give those guys credits. They're college kids up at 6:30 in the morning. So I give those guys so much credit kind of every day. So a typical week will be a Monday kind of general session. Tuesday will typically be a tactical session, preparing for the team that we're playing the next day. That's when we'll go over any specific shapes or formations or specific tactics to that game. We'll reinforce our set pieces. We'll reinforce kind of what we're looking to get from it. Typically, we play on Wednesdays, so Wednesday is our actual game day. Thursday is typically going to be a recovery session. So we'll get some stuff done. It'll be a large part of it will also be that group that didn't play, doing some high intensity stuff, not as a punishment, but just as a, hey, the whole group needs to stay fit. And if one kid played 70 minutes in a game and the other kid didn't play a minute, he needs to make sure that he's still getting that work so that it's a productive day in terms of our fitness and overall kind of team, levels of fitness. Friday is going to look again like another tactical session. We're going to base it off that team, maybe specific set pieces. Maybe we know we can go short. Maybe we know we can go long. Maybe we know we're aiming back post, and we'll be a bit more specific. Saturday is going to be another game day, and Sunday is a well-earned and well-deserved mandatory day off.
Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit more about the soccer side of things. You mentioned you have a part-time assistant, but
Yep.
what other staff are involved with the team, whether that be from, athletic training, strength and conditioning, academic advising, any else? Who else helps out with the team
Yeah.
and in what ways?
All of that stuff. We have two full-time athletic trainers that are awesome. Athletic trainers, shout out to athletic trainers and SIDs. You are the unsung heroes of college athletics. I say that all the time. Every day that I'm up at I'm up at 5 a.m. to get here, to get to the facility and stuff. I always say the difference is it's my team, right? So I'm willing to make that sacrifice. I'm willing to be up at 5 a.m. It's my team, it's my guys, my recruits. Those SIDs who are just there because that's their job and they love being around athletics, those athletic trainers who love my players dearly, but it's not their team. They're there every morning when we're there, right? And the SIDs are there every night when we have away games. So those guys specifically, I give so much credit to. We have a strength and conditioning program that comes in and does 3 days a week with our teams, which is awesome. We have a full gym, we have a full athletic training room, all that. We have academic advisors and we have academic support. The really cool thing with how we do it here at Sarah Lawrence is a lot of the academic advising and a lot of the academic support is actually done by the students. Because of that discussion-based style, because of that small classroom experience, a senior may actually be a tutor for a first year. So rather than going to just an academic advisor, it's, hey, did you have Mrs. Smith? Hey, did you have Mr. Stevens? Did you? And yeah, oh yeah, he does a lot of reading, or hey, she does a lot of assignments or whatever, and they kind of become each other's kind of resource, which I think is pretty awesome. Um, but yeah, I mean that's it. My assistant coach is also my goalkeeper coach. He played goal. He was a goalie, so it was a win-win to be able to bring somebody in with that kind of two hats ability, which was great. I have another assistant coach who is a grad assistant, who's a great kid, really connects well with the students, and they love him. But again, isn't doing recruiting, isn't doing tactics. He's just there to be a really good kid and a really good personality, and the guys adore him. But it's kind of mainly me and the other assistant coach doing the day-to-day coaching.
Okay. Well, t speaking about your coaching, how would you
Yeah.
describe kind of your coaching style, team style of play, what you're trying to do there?
Yeah. I want to get the ball down. I want to play high possession, high work rate, high intensity style soccer. I grew up in New Jersey, so I have very much that like New Jersey Northeast style of soccer. The really cool thing for me, and but also very difficult part of my job is I am not New York based with my team. Like we played, for example, this past year, the best team in our conference was a team called St. Joe's Long Island, and St. Joe's Long Island doesn't have dorms. So every kid has to be within a 10-mile radius of that campus. And if you know anything about New York soccer and Long Island soccer, they play the same way. They've been playing the same way since they were 7 years old. I don't care what team they're on. And there's some great teams in Long Island. They have played the same quintessential New York, Long Island soccer their entire life. My right back is from Georgia. My left back is from Virginia. My two center mids, one's from Seattle and one's from LA. My striker's from New York. My 10 is from LA. My right wing is from San Diego. My left wing is from Puerto Rico. Like, I'm combining 8 different styles and trying to put them together. There's times where that's awesome because you get a very eclectic style of soccer, and there's times that that's very difficult because this player has played this way his whole life. This player has played this way his whole life, and within a year or within preseason or within 6 months, especially if they're a first year, I got to change everything their coach has ever taught them or every system they've ever done to fit my system and my tactics and the way that we're looking to play. So, it's pretty difficult in that regard. But it's a great challenge, and I've had I've been coaching for a bunch of years now. I played Division One, I've coached Division One, I've coached Division Three. I've had that whole experience, and that's been kind of the enjoyable thing for me is seeing that different level of things.
Oh, that's great. Well, season's over, the kids get a little bit of break, they come back in the spring. Kind of talk to me about what does that non-traditional spring season look like for the players?
Yeah, the biggest thing from that for me is I get to be way more of the development model. When you're in season, you're very much the performance model. We have to win, right? The job is based on winning. The success of a season is based on winning. Yes, I want to develop these players in the fall. Yes, I want them to become better soccer players in November than they were in August. But I don't really have the time for that day-to-day development. Whereas in the spring, the focus really shifts to that development model and really like, okay, how do I get this guy better? How do I get us better? How do I get this unit better? So I think that's probably 50% of it. And then the other 50% of it is really shifting from that senior group who I love dearly and appreciative of or whatever into those juniors becoming the leaders. And how do they, it's their team now, it's their culture now, it's their thing. So really shifting a guy that was maybe a junior in my leadership group into that junior being the captain and really the expectations and what he's kind of presenting, I think really changes. So it's development and it's creating kind of new leaders in a new leadership group.
Okay. Well, Coach, you've been generous with your time. We've learned a
Yeah.
lot. I just have one last question for you, and that is if you could give one piece of advice or piece of information to those going through the college recruiting process right now, what would that
Yep.
be?
Ooh, I got a couple. I'll rattle them off. Start early. The earlier the better. No one has ever said I started this process too early, but thousands of kids have said I've started it too late. So start it early. Understand that any coach is going to call your club coach. It's going to call your high school coach. So you might be an amazing player. And if I pick up the phone and I talk to your high school coach and he said he is the most difficult kid I've ever coached, he is challenges me on every single thing. That's the last phone call I'm going to make, and it's not going to be worth my time. It's not going to be worth kind of the effort. And then the third thing is, yes, shoot for the stars. Division One, have those aspirations. Look at Wake Forest, look at Duke, look at Maryland, look at the top boys, but then be realistic. If every email that you're getting is from a small liberal arts Division 3 school, you're a Division 3 player, and that's not a bad thing. That's not a negative. That's not a thing that's a bad thing about you. But I think too many kids are so razzle dazzled by the lights and sounds of Division 1 soccer. And I've always said, if you're going to go play Division 1 and you're going to go play in 60 or 70 games in your career, go play Division 1. You're clearly a Division 1 player. You're going to get into those games, enjoy that experience. If you are playing Division 1 and you do not get off the field other than your senior day, I'll never understand how that's enjoyable. Go be a Division 3 player. Go be the top player. Go be the top scorer. Go enjoy that experience. But again, shoot for the stars. You've earned that right to shoot for that stars and hope that those Division 1 schools will come a calling. But when you realize maybe you're not getting the Division 1 offers that you thought you were, the D3, I got to say, as a guy who played Division 1, as a guy who's coached Division 1, that Division 3 balance is way better than that Division 1 balance. And I wouldn't have changed my Division 1 experience. I played at Temple. I had a great experience there. I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And I was wired like a Division 1 player. But having now coached Division 3 for about 5 years, it's a way better balance. You want that work life, that school life, social life balance. D3 is the way to go. You get the same soccer. It's the same season. It's that same August to November that Division 1, Division 2, Division 3 are doing. But when November 6th hits, like we're chatting today, the effort and the commitment drops off a cliff in a good way. Have a social life. I'm 20 minutes from New York City. Go to New York. Go enjoy that kind of thing. Whereas Division 1, for better or for worse, you're in the gym. You're in the gym the day the season ends. And that might be a great thing or that might be a terrible thing, but I think that's a big thing that kids need to see the whole broader picture.
Well, as a former D3 player, I couldn't agree
Yeah,
more,
yeah,
and that's why I made my choice for me, and it was perfect. So I love
yeah,
it. Well,
100%.
Coach, thank you so much. Wish you the
My
best of
pleasure.
luck. And well, if you get to any of the tournaments down here in Lakewood Ranch, Bradenton, let me know and we'll get together, all
I'm
right?
actually there for the EA one. I'm there
Yeah.
in a couple December 6th to 9th. I actually think I'm in that area.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll talk.
Hey, any excuse to leave New York in November and December to go to. It's not. Hey, I joke about this. It's a little strategic because that's where the best tournaments are.
Yep.
But I got Phoenix, I got San Diego, and I got Florida as my next three, and I'm leaving New York
You
to
get
go to
the
those three. That's a little bit strategic for
that's
me,
right.
just a little bit.
Sounds good. All right,
So
take care.
awesome. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate you, buddy.